Okay, y'all. I hope this is in focus. If it's a little bright, I'm doing the best I can with what I got. You hear me? Demi's not here this week. It's just me. And my nail fell off. And this is just really where I am.
It's at the table. It's at the table. It's at the table.
What's up, y'all? This is Tiff. I'm here by myself this week, but I'll be bringing you a Bible breakdown until we convene, me and Demi, next week. So, Bible breakdowns essentially, Demi and I will take turns, or however the Spirit leads. We will just go in, and if one of us can't get on a podcast because life be lifing, the other one will fill in, and we will just simply break down some of the Bible for you. So today we're going to be in 1 Kings 18, and we're going to be talking about Prophet Elijah, Mount Carmel, and the showdown with the prophets of Baal. So this is personally my favorite story ever in the Bible. I can't say that. Dang. I think it is. Yeah, I think this is like hands down one of it's top 5, top 3. Take some time. This is only gonna be short. So take some time to go and read it for yourself, because I'm gonna do a skim. I'm gonna try to give y'all like a really good backstory, a brief backstory, and then focus on actually what happened in Mount Carmel. So I'm gonna give y'all the characters. I hate to say characters, these are real people. I'll give you the people involved in this historical account. Just kind of give you some reasons as to why it happened, where it happened, the who, what, when, where, how. So let's go ahead and get started. I don't have a huge intro today, but 1 Kings 18. Actually, let me pull out my Bible and start there. So, I'm gonna give y'all, here's the backstory. Our players in this game, we've got Ahab, King Ahab, Jezebel, his wife. We've got Prophet Elijah. We've got a false god named Baal. We've got a false goddess named Asherah. And we've got God. And I'll also add in a minor character named Obadiah. And dang, Penny, who else? I think that's it. But these are our main characters, our main people in the story. So here's what's going on. So right now, Ahab, as of chapter 16, 1 Kings 16, Ahab is now king of Israel. You want to know why? Because it says he not only considered it trivial to commit the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, but he also married Jezebel, daughter of Baal, king of the Sidonians, and began to serve Baal and worship him. He set up an altar for Baal in the temple of Baal that he built in Samaria. He also made an Asherah pole and did more to arouse the anger of the Lord, the God of Israel, than did all the kings of Israel before him. Ahab, essentially awful. There's no other word to describe the king but awful. And he was a weak man. Not only was you're a weak man, you're king of Israel, and we've made it very clear through all of the Old Testament that they're going to serve only one God, and that is Yahweh, God of Israel. But why is he over here building temples for Baal, setting up Asherah poles for the other god? It's like, what are you doing? You're the king of God's people. You're king of Israel. But I digress. That's the backstory. So you can go to read more about him in 1 Kings 16, 29 through 34. Now I'm going to introduce you to my main man, Elijah. So he's introduced just out of nowhere in 1 Kings 17. Now Elijah the Tishbite, the Tishbite from Tishbe in Gilead said to Ahab, "As the Lord, the God of Israel lives, whom I serve, there will be neither dew nor rain in the next few years except at my word." So he just came out the gate. That's his introduction. He comes out the gate and he's like, I don't know what you got going on over here. I don't know why you building these altars to these false gods and we serve the true God of Israel, but only at my command will there be rain. Only at my command will you have water, essentially. And I believe that Elijah had to do that. He had the power to do that because of his relationship with God. He cannot command rain or anything because he's not God. But because of that access that he had to God, God was like, okay, I'll honor your request. And it goes a little bit deeper because I want to do some deep dive, some study into, not too deep, into Baal. Baal was allegedly, because he couldn't do nothing, he was the god of life and fertility, weather, increase, and prosperity. I don't know who made him that god because he wasn't nothing but some clay, but more power to you. So, but the important one we want to highlight is that he's the god of weather. So Elijah said, okay, to this god of weather, let me tell you, God, shut up the heavens. No rain. Because rain in the Bible usually means like God, it's a blessing in the Old Testament. Rain was always a sign of, So he said, no, don't let any rain fall on Israel, because if they want to have this man, this God thing, this little g God as their God, then, let the God who can actually do something shut up the heavens so that y'all can't drink no water. Boo. I love that. So we're going to skip all the way down to 1 Kings 18 now, because there's some things that happen. It gives more of an introduction on Elijah. Read about him. He's amazing. Elijah and Obadiah. So that's where we're going to go. 1 Kings 18. So God honored his request, by the way. There was a drought. After a long time, in the third year, the word of the Lord came to Elijah. Go and present yourself to Ahab, and I will send rain on the land. So Elijah went to present himself to Ahab. Now the famine was severe in Samaria, and Ahab had summoned Obadiah, his palace administrator. He was a devout believer in the Lord. And Jezebel, his stank wife, was killing off the Lord's prophets. Obadiah had taken and hidden 100 prophets in 2 caves and had supplied them with food and water. Because God will always take care of what? His kids. Because he, through Elijah, issued a drought on the land. But some of these people who still followed the Lord with all their heart, they were saved, because that's what God does. So Ahab had said to Obadiah, go through all the land in the spring and the valleys, and we're going to skip this. But he met Elijah, essentially. Obadiah recognized him, and he was like, is it you? Are you Elijah? Like, you're the one? And he was like, yeah. Go tell your master, Ahab, Elijah is here. So he said, what have I done wrong that you're handing your servant over to Ahab to be put to death? As surely as the Lord your God lives, there's not a nation or kingdom where my master has not sent someone to look for you. Elijah was a wanted man. You shut up. I can't get no water. You're done for. And whenever a nation or kingdom claimed you were not there, he made them swear they could not find you. But now you tell me to go to my master and say Elijah is here. I don't know where the Spirit of the Lord may carry you when I leave you. If I go and tell Ahab and he does not find you, he will kill me. Yet I, your servant, have worshipped the Lord since my youth. Haven't you heard? And he goes on and he's like, but either way, Elijah said, I heard all that, but surely as the Lord Almighty lives, whom I serve, I will surely present myself to Ahab today. He said, I don't really care how you feel. You think you might die, but the Lord told me to go present myself to Ahab. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. So Obadiah went to meet Ahab and told him, and Ahab went to meet Elijah. When he saw Elijah, he said to him, is that you, you traveler of Israel? How much could he have done for them to be like, oh dang, here go Elijah again, you troubler of Israel? And Elijah's like, I haven't made trouble for Israel, but you and your father's family have. You've abandoned the Lord's command and you followed the Baals. Now summon the people from all over Israel to meet me on Mount Carmel, and bring the 450 prophets of Baal and the 400 prophets of Asherah who eat at Jezebel's table. Because these were Jezebel's people. These were Jezebel's gods and her stuff. But since Ahab was such a weak husband, a weak king, and a weak man, he said, oh yeah, let's all just serve Baal. Let's all just serve Asherah. Let's just go for it. That's not gonna go over well. We're gonna finish that. But I'm gonna do a pause and explain Mount Carmel. I find it good. I find it interesting how the Lord works through names and meaning. So Mount Carmel in Hebrew, it means garden land. It means God's garden. And they had the nerve to set up altars to these false gods on God's garden. God causes the rain to fall. God causes every plant to thrive in its season. But they sat up here and put Baal on the altar. And not Baal on the altar, but they made altars to Baal, altars to Asherah. And he's sitting up here like, all right, cool. We're going to see who's God for real. So, Ahab sent word all throughout Israel and assembled the prophets on Mount Carmel. So everybody, God always has a last laugh because there's a drought, but y'all are going to go to God's garden and see who wins. I love this story. I'm getting so excited. Okay. So Elijah went before the people who gathered on Mount Carmel, and he said, how long will you waver between two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal is God, follow him. But the people said nothing. Does that sound familiar to today? The Old Testament is very telling because we think, oh, these were people they were so much different than we are. No. Do we as a nation, do we as people in general, do we constantly waver between right and wrong? Do we constantly waver between loving God and having these other gods, or whatever the case may be? And not only that, sometimes we're silent. God would prefer us to pick a side, but the people, they stayed in the middle, and you're in the middle of a drought, and yet you're still bowing down, worshiping. You're gonna see them cut themselves to a God who can't do anything for them. But God said, don't even worry about it. We're gonna solve this in just a second. Now, we all know God is God, but it's a showdown. We gotta put your best out there. So he asked them that question, and that question, it runs through my mind all the time. Like, if God is God, then follow him. But then insert, if that is God, do that. But we cannot be torn between two opinions. Then Elijah said to them, I am the only one of the Lord's prophets left. But Baal has 450 prophets, the narrow way. When you follow the Lord, it gets lonely. When you follow the Lord, it may be you up against 450. It could be you up against thousands. It could be you up against, I don't know. But when you are on the Lord's side, you are so backed up by things you cannot even see, by God. You have angel armies who are coming to your defense. Get 2 bulls for us. Let Baal's prophets choose one for themselves and let them cut it into pieces, put it on the wood, but not set fire to it. I will prepare the other bull, put it on the wood, but not set fire to it. Then you call on the name of your God, and I will call on the name of my God. And the God who answers by fire, let him be God. So this is about rain, but why is fire coming into it? We'll get back to that. So I'll break that down super quick. So you got Baal's prophets over here. There's two bulls happening. So you got one over here, one over here. So they can go first. You're on God's garden and you have the home advantage. You can go first. You can cut it into pieces, put it on the wood, not set fire to it. And then Elijah, after you do all that, he'll do the same thing. Then you call on the name, and then he will call on the name. And we'll see, because if your false gods, no quotation mark, if your false gods can do anything, then there should be some rain happening. There should be some fire happening. But, I'll give you a chance to prove yourself. The people said, okay, that's cool. Elijah said to the prophets of Baal, choose one of the bulls and prepare it first, since there's so many of you. And then call on the name of your God and don't light the fire. So they did it first. Then they called on the name of Baal from morning till noon. They called on the name of Baal from morning till noon. That's a long time. That is a long time. And nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. But they're calling on his name like insane. So they called on the name of Baal from morning till noon. Baal, answer us, they shouted. But there was no response. No one answered. And they danced around the altar they had made. At noon, Elijah started to taunt them. Shout louder. Surely he is a god. Perhaps he is deep in thought or busy or traveling. Maybe he's asleep and must be awakened. So they shouted louder and slashed themselves with swords and spears, as was their custom, until their blood flowed. Midday passed and they continued their frantic prophesying until the time for the evening sacrifice. But there was no response. No one answered. No one paid attention. So they did all that. They shouted his name from morning till noon. Then at noon, after that's like an itinerary. Morning till noon, we're going to shout. And then they're going to start. Elijah started taunting them and they shouted louder. So like maybe he's right. Maybe that he can't hear. Maybe he's asleep. Like I got to get him up. Baal! Baal! And then after that, you start cutting yourselves. And I'm laughing, but seriously, these gods demanded blood. They demanded sacrifice. They used to put their children on the altar and sacrifice their kids to these gods. Like, I'm not even joking. These gods were ruthless, but there's no God. Like there's nothing. It's literally just a piece. It's a statue. It's something that is made with human hands. And let me take y'all to Jeremiah. I'm probably gonna have to pause this. And Jeremiah is a super good book to read. In general, God truly had me cracking up during this whole thing. Jeremiah 2:10. Has a nation ever changed its gods? Yet they are not gods at all. But my people have exchanged their glorious God for worthless idols. Be appalled at this, you heavens, and shudder with great horror. My people have committed two sins. They have forsaken me, the spring or the well of living water, and have dug their own cisterns, broken cisterns that cannot hold water. So you have to have, Jesus always said, I am the living water. I am the bread of life. I am the fulfillment. You come to me and you will not be thirsty again. I guarantee you. But they said, okay, God, that's cool. But then they kept going over and it's like you're carrying a water jug, but the water is falling out of the bottom. But they said, oh no, it's fine. So you're over here and you're dedicating your time. He literally said in Jeremiah, you're whoring yourself out to these other idols. You're calling out to a God that cannot hear you. You know why? Because he don't see you. He has there's a verse. Hold on. Jeremiah 2:22. Although you wash yourself with soap and use an abundance of cleansing powder, the stain of your guilt is still before me, declares the sovereign Lord. How can you say I am not defiled? I have not run after the Baals. See how you behaved in the valley. Consider what you have done. You are a swift she-camel running here and there. Wow. In Exodus 20:2-6, we try to have pity on the Israelites, but all throughout, we're in 1 Kings at this point. Exodus, he brought them out from Egypt with all of those gods. And he said, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. There's a spiritual bondage when you worship other gods. That's why God is he said, I'm a jealous God. You're my people. I chose you. And yet here you go, running off these other gods who cannot see you. They can't hear you. They can't speak. Because they don't. They're carved. They're man-made. You are your own God more than they're your God. And you suck. That's what he was saying to them, you shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself a carved image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, and the earth beneath, and the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or serve them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing steadfast love to the thousands of those who love me and keep my commandments. And people say, oh, the Lord was so mean back then. Girl, He was justified because they made a covenant with God and then continued to break it. But yet he's long suffering and kind and gracious. He kept saying, you've done this, you've done this, you've done this. But if you return to me, I'll restore you. If you return to me, I will make your garden fruitful. If you return to me, I'll restore the voice of the bride and the bridegroom. Like God, he roasted them all throughout Jeremiah. But at the end, if you read Jeremiah 33, like he does that constantly. He still does that. And yet we still betray him. He shows us his signs and wonders. He shows us the work of his hands. We are the work of his hands and we disobey him all the time. We're no different than the Israelites. We cannot stand in the middle anymore. Pick a side. Who's on the Lord's side? Who's on the winning team? I am. Anyway, I'm getting heated. Let me finish. Elijah said to all the people, come here. Come on. Y'all wasting your time. Come here. So they came to him and he repaired the altar of the Lord which had been torn down. Dang. They destroyed the altar of the Lord to erect an altar to a false god. Is that not what we do today? I get heated reading this. I forgot I did that. He took 12 stones, one for each of the tribes of Israel, descended from Jacob, to whom the word of the Lord had come, saying, your name shall be Israel. With the stones, he built an altar in the name of the Lord, and he dug a trench around it, large enough to hold 2 seahs of seed. I looked that up, but I cannot remember at the moment. He arranged the wood, cut the bowl into pieces, and laid it on the wood. Then he added an extra step. He said, fill 4 large jars with water and pour it on the offering and on the wood. Because if God is answering by fire and he's drenching the offering and he's also drenching the wood, that's how much faith that he had in God, that God was going to come through for him. We should all have that type of faith in God. It is rough to have that type of faith in God because you be looking around like, I know you said you was going to do this, or you said you were going to restore this country and this land, or you said you were going to show yourself to be God, but I got to put water on it? On a fire sacrifice? That's what God wants from us. He wants our trust. He can do it. The earth is his footstool. The clouds are as dust to his feet. That's nothing for him. He doesn't need us. He doesn't need anything. He is God all by himself. Very strong, very powerful, and he wants our faith. So at the time of the sacrifice, he didn't do any cutting of himself. He didn't yell. He didn't holler. He didn't scream from morning to noon and then from noon to mid-evening. He simply prayed. He stepped forward and prayed, Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known today that you are God in Israel and that I am your servant and have done all these things at your command. Answer me, Lord, answer me, so that these people will know that you, Lord, are God and that you are turning their hearts back again. Then the fire of the Lord fell, burned up the sacrifice like wood, the stones and the soil, and also licked up the water in the trench. When the people saw this, they fell prostrate and cried, the Lord, he is God, the Lord, he is God. Wow. He doesn't do all that. Prayer is our weapon. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they are mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. He didn't do anything extra, but just talk to his maker. Talk to the one who is God over fire, God over weather, God over the earth, has dominion, rule, and reign because he made it, because he is God, the one who brought them out of Egypt, the one who brought them into the promised land, the one who they were in captivity time and time and time again, and yet still turned away from God. And he just prayed because of his relationship with God. And the water, he licked up the water in the trench. He set fire to the entire thing because Elijah laid down his sacrifice of praise, of worship, and faith. Elijah commanded them, now this will get a little graphic. PG-13, 14. Seized the prophets of Baal, don't let anyone get away. They seized them, and Elijah had them brought down to the Kishon Valley and there. And Elijah said to Ahab, go, eat and drink, for there is a sound of an abundance of rain. That part, hold on. There is a sound of an abundance of rain. He said, let the God that answers by fire be God. And God did it. Because God told him, go present yourself before Ahab and let me show y'all that I'm God. And God showed up and showed out. And Elijah said, I done kill all your prophets, all these false prophets of a false God that did disgusting and abominable things to the people of Israel and set over them a false God, 2 false gods, 3 false gods, a lot of false gods. So Ahab said, all right, y'all. So he went off to eat and drink, but Elijah climbed to the top of Carmel, bent down to the ground and put his face between his knees. And by the way, there was no rain. It was still a drought, but he said, there is a sound. He didn't say, I hear a sound. He said, there is a sound. He proclaimed it because of the relationship that he had with God. He knew that the Lord was going to come through. That's some faith. So he told the servant, go look towards the sea. Go see if there's any rain. And the servant was like, nah, there's no rain. Elijah said 7 times, go look. The 7th time, a servant reported, a cloud as small as a man's hand. This is a woman's hand. A man's hand is bigger than mine. But that's a very small cloud to see out into the distance. But he knew that the Lord was going to let the rain fall once his will had been done. And he showed the people that I am God. Make your decisions. How long you're going to stand between 2 opinions? Because I'm God either way. But this is for your benefit. Whatever. He saw a cloud as small as a man's hand rising from the sea. So Elijah said, go and tell Ahab, hitch up your chariot and go down before the rain stops you. And Ahab was a wimp, so he did. Meanwhile, the sky grew black with clouds and the wind rose and a heavy rain started falling, and Ahab rode off to Jezreel. The power of the Lord came on Elijah. Tucking his cloak in his belt, he ran ahead of Ahab all the way to Israel. I think he ran 19 miles ahead of him. God showed up and showed out that day. I really wish, if that was a story I could go back to, I'd go there. Because I would love to see that. You cut yourself, you do all these things for a God who can't, he can't, they don't know. There's spirits behind those gods, but nobody can operate like our God. So this might be a little bit longer than I thought, but welcome to my Bible breakdown, y'all. My favorite story. I hope y'all learned something from this. Please, please, please go and read this for yourself. Go study this scripture, because our idols are still very much present in this day and age. We think the Old Testament does not apply to us. Its stories, its lessons, these gods, they are still around and they hide themselves super duper well. So stay vigilant, pray for discernment, study the Bible so we can come against this kind of stuff. And wow, I hear the sound of an abundance of rain. Signing off. I love y'all. Bye. I think this is, if it's a little bright, I'm back. Hey everybody, this is, what's my name? Cut.